Hi, and welcome to What's Important to You with me, 𝘽𝙧𝙞𝙬𝙩𝙩𝙬. On the show, I will be talking to people from all walks of life and asking them the question, what's important to you? Because I believe once we understand what's important, then we can build the life that we truly want to live. I hope you are inspired by the guests that I talk to and answer that question for yourself and build the life that you truly want. You can support the show by clicking on the subscribe button, sharing your favorite episode, or leaving your comments. Thanks for watching. Today's guest is the visionary founder of BridgetBrands, a distinguished global and personal brand identity strategist. She is a sought-after authority who guides entrepreneurs and organizations towards their brand's radiant future. Her mission is to craft captivating brand identities that radiate beauty, brilliance, and authenticity, ultimately attracting the clients and recognition her clients truly deserve. Today, we find out what's important to Brigitte Bojkowszky. Good morning, Brigitte. How are you today?
I am fine, James. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to this chat. So we're going to dive straight in with the first question, as always, is what's important to you?
Oh my God, a lot of things are important to me. Important to me, like is the pursuit of a life that is marked by health, because I think to be healthy is the fundament. I mean, that's the most important thing ever for a person to be healthy, right? So it's health, it's freedom, and for me, it's continuous personal and professional growth. These are the three things that are most important for me. Of course, this is rooted in my upbringing and everything. And again, to be healthy really has a significance, not only physical health, but also mentally and emotionally. It forms the foundation for a fulfilling life, and who doesn't want to have a fulfilling life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's interesting because, like you would say, when you said health is the first thing as a foundation, because just before we started recording, you even mentioned that you'd been to the gym this morning. So is when you say, but because it's one physical, mental, health is a broader thing, and it's always something you've been involved in. So is something like to do with your fitness? Is that something you've always had as well as a person?
Yeah, it started when I was a teenager. I thought, because I'm a very passionate person, and then also during my jobs, my first job was a flight attendant. So you're always on the go, you're always on the move. And I always was restless. I couldn't sit for long. So I'm always kind of running around. And for me, that is like a very good exchange of energy. I need to work out in the morning. It inspires me. And it's not only for my physical health, but I read, I prepare, let's say for our show today, I prepared and I looked at, okay, what could I talk about, and went through it mentally. And then I love to listen to podcasts about, life, about being great in life, about purpose in life. So all this kind of, things that help you for your personal development.
Yeah.
And so I combine the two. In that sense, I'm very efficient.
Yeah.
Then it's not only my activities, because you're also a very sportive person. I never ran a marathon or a triathlon. I just do it for myself, and I'm happy if I come back from a 20K run. I do that too when I'm feeling like that. And something else that adds up to health or living healthy is also my nutrition. I watch it because I love sweets and I love chocolate. So I need to make sure that I somehow tie that into my food intake, so that it still is healthy. So I look out for healthy recipes that also helped me to have a joyful life insofar. I also can indulge in some sweets
Yeah.
once in a while, or more
Yeah.
often
Yeah.
once in a while.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I think like so many things, and when you're just talking about there from the sort of word of healthy, or what that means to you, it is that sort of trying to find, I don't know if the word is balance and everything, but trying to find that you can do all these things. But it's interesting in the sense, the first thing you said about the sort of the physical side of stuff and being sort of, active. It's almost like from when you were describing it there, from when your younger years, it's like, well, I just had to do something because you almost had this energy, is harnessing and using it. And then by doing that, you've got yourself into this sort of, whether it's habit or whatever, you almost like it's just part of what you do. And that was the thing for me. It's almost like sometimes it's the hardest thing is to start, but once you into that sort of mode of doing something, whether it's going to the gym, whatever it is, it's almost just, it's part of the day, it's part of who you are. It just becomes part of what you do.
Yeah, I need that. I need to wake
Yeah.
up like that. I mean, waking up like that. First of all, I do my meditation or my affirmations because I need to come into the right energy. And then I'm thinking my day through when I go for a run. I have the best ideas on a run or on a fast walk with my weights. It's just inspiring me. And then when I get home, I need to write down all my ideas, and then I have my day structured. I mean, the day is already organized, but
Yeah.
the little details. And then when an idea sparks you, you need to write it down. And I'm so much more productive being on that energy level when I feel like I can conquer the world, and I'm energized. It's different than getting up, drinking your coffee, and starting your work or driving somewhere. I couldn't imagine just driving somewhere in the morning like every day. Yeah, having like a
Yeah.
9 to 5 job. It's just I just cannot imagine myself doing that again because I did it.
Yeah.
It's not my way of, it's not my lifestyle. It's not what brings me joy. And I think we have to give ourselves the permission to live a life of joy. It's possible. It's possible, especially when you decide you want to become an entrepreneur. I mean, the first years are hard.
Yeah.
If you're not coming from a wealthy family or already have been living in abundance and money is not such an issue, then you're struggling. You don't know what the next month is going to bring. How many more months can you live without income? And then still deciding to live a life of joy, and still deciding I'm going to pursue this path and not giving up and living by your values. That's tricky, but it always somehow works out. And that's the beauty. I think that's the magic in life. And it also comes back here to authenticity, because if you are living a joyful life that you are looking forward every day, and you're doing those things that you're passionate about, then things are going to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And it very much because one of the things you said when you first answered was like the whole thing of your personal and professional development. And it's something obviously you have a huge amount of experience in because of your, varied career, I suppose. You mentioned it there just a moment ago. One of the first things you did was working as a, stewardess on one of the airlines a number of years ago. But it's something that, if I'm right in saying that I think you still look back on with quite a lot of joy. Would that be right? And that you enjoyed that time that you were doing that?
Yes, I enjoyed that time. It was a wonderful time, especially for a young girl at that time. I mean, there's also guys, but it was like my dream job. I realized my dream. I was visualizing myself when I was 16 years, the first time I flew with a big plane.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this beautiful, flight attendants. At that time, we called it
Yeah.
stewardesses. And I was like, oh, I want to become like them. I just want to, and all the beauty and everything was beautiful. It's the women, the people, the plane, everything, the food. It was all striving to perfection. And I was like, oh my God, I want that. Because I already, when I was a child, I liked nice things. I like to have things put in their place and everything is clean and organized and getting the best out of something, not only about out of people, but also about things. So for me, it was kind of being brilliant in what you're doing means your best and making things beautiful. And there's beauty everywhere. You can see it everywhere. In a flower in the morning when you go for a run. Or yesterday I was on a run. It was like I was in the fog. I didn't see anything. I just saw the sun kind of trying to push through, and I was in this fog, seeing just literally nothing. And I felt like it's the best part of my life. It's just the best minutes in my life. I enjoyed it so much, and the smell of the morning, you know, when fall creeps in and the leaves fall from the trees, it's just a different vibe. So yeah, coming back to beauty, that's for me, it's beauty. Yeah. I just, as a flight attendant, I loved this demand that our boss had, Niki Lauda. He's a former Formula One car race driver. He really is one of my biggest influences in my life. And our slogan was "Service is our success." So I took that and I lived it. It's about our services, how we create experiences, and we want to create exceptional experiences for our customers, and so that they can come back. And seeing them with a smiling face and being happy and just, you know, offering the best, whatever is possible in this very minute and on these 14 hours, sometimes it was 14 hours, right? And troubleshooting and still making the best out of that. I just loved that. I loved when something was coming up that, you know, an irregularity that is manageable. You have like 50 meals. You're short 50 meals, for example. What are you doing? Yeah, you cannot wait for it to be delivered by the catering because we have a slot, we have to leave. So it was just very exciting for me to do this. And yeah, but after a while, you know, I did it for 5 years and I was flying like 5 continents a month. So I was really going on long hauls, coming back, and have had 2 days and then hop on the next flight or just opposite time zones. And so after a while, I felt like, okay, but I'm intellectually not really challenged anymore. So, and when I feel something is not quite right anymore, something is off, there needs to be something new, I take the challenge. I'm not waiting. Or I've waited once too long, then life is pushing you anyway. Yeah, I just did, I want to have things under control. So for me, it was important to make a decision. I knew, I mean, this was a beautiful life, staying at 5-star hotels, traveling the world, getting to know interesting people, dive into different cultures and mentality, understanding that. And that made me a global person. But it was not enough for me anymore. So I have a growth mindset. I love that. I'm thankful for it, but I knew there needed to be something else, something more in my life. And then I started studying.
I love that. But and what I think is really important to highlight on that story is the fact that we can change our minds, even when something that you said, like it was something you saw when you were so young that you wanted to be able to do. You achieved that sort of young girl's dream, and it's your own dream of achieving that, and everything that airline and that company stood for, and the position you had. But you came to a point, you kind of like, you know what, actually, as you said, it says it's not enough anymore. And I think that's what people can kind of get stuck on. And the reason it resonates so much with me, because I probably was in somewhere too long until I realized that, and it became, so it's a great story in the sense of you can have a great time, be successful in something you're doing, but still change.
Yes.
You can still decide, you know what, I've had a great time. I am now tapping out and I'm going to try something new. It's a great story. Yeah.
Yes. And I think it's not about, oh my God, she always wants to be someone else, or she's needed, or she never has enough. And no, it's about, I feel so much gratitude. I feel like I'm so happy that I fulfilled my dream, my childhood dream. But at the same time, I said, okay, I fulfilled it. I lived it like every day. But now something is different. Something different is coming. And I was not quite sure what was coming. I mean, I had an idea, and that's what kept me going through the time as a student, because being a student, coming from, being responsible for so many passengers and having a certain position in a company, I was climbing up the career ladder, and then you start from nothing. And you see yourself with 25 years studying with others that are 18 years. There's a huge difference. And I always felt the old one at that time. But you have to push through that. If you decide to go that route, then you have to commit yourself no matter what. And I did it. And it was not easy, because you live from pretty much nothing. I got a subsidy by the government because my grades were great. But I had to finish within minimum time of studies. So I was really studying all the time. And I did it. And I wanted to go back to the airline, to corporate. So becoming in business development, and let's say in the marketing department, something like that, But, that time, it was a time of mergers and acquisitions. It was a very turbulent time. So we were all riding with seatbelts fastened, of these mergers and acquisitions going on. So they were streamlining, and I couldn't go back. There was no room for me. They were rather firing than hiring. So to pivot and find something else. But it also hit me hard, because once you are with an airline, you are infected. It's just life. It's not comparable with something else. Still have butterflies when I talk about it, when I think about it, meet my former friends, or so
no, I can even know, I absolutely can hear it when you tell the stories about it. It's you have such a obviously it was such a big part of your life, and you have such affection for it. So when you then had to decide, so it was marketing that what you went to study, and then business and marketing, is that what you went to?
I studied business education, because I thought, because I liked to train others on the plane, on the go, and I thought, I really have a knack for that, right? And then I thought, okay, so when I study, what do I do with it? I was like very rational, thinking on a very much focus on, it has to make sense. And also it has to feel good. So I'm always both. There's a rational side and there is an emotional side. It's with brains. Brains also have always a rational and emotional side, but we can talk about that later. And then I figured, okay, if I study education, so I'm becoming a certified teacher, educator, I can do so many things, right? And then the topic I focused on was business education. So I can go into companies and do workshops, trainings for them. I can, end up teaching at the university for 23 years, what I did. But I always see everything from an educational perspective, because I want to bring value to the table in terms of, I want to teach others. I like that. I like that suddenly people, oh, now I understand. And so this, I didn't know what is going to be the end
Yep.
of all of my life stages and parts of my journey. But at the end now, everything comes together. It's like a puzzle. I solved the
Yeah.
puzzle for myself because it's
Yes.
about creating exceptional experiences for my clients, but helping them to also do the same for their clients.
Yes.
It's all about the beauty and the brilliance and being passionate about things. And doing that in form of educating or passing on knowledge, know-how from my learnings, but also my personal experience. So this is basically it. And I focus on identities.
Yeah.
Identities when it comes to people, but also organizations, because that is it. We need to be clear about who we are and
Yeah.
who we become.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that obviously obviously still screams, and you said it there, it's the whole thing of this about educating people and in some form of way. So whether it was, and you said you were then a lecturer for 23 years as well, is that right? So that's an incredible thing to do, in a sense of that level of teaching, in a sense of at that sort of higher level. We will go. I definitely we're going to go into the piece that you do at the moment, what you do in your current business, because I think it's obviously going to be the follow on from that. But in that sort of university sort of setting, that lecturing setting, because you're sort of always dealing with generally young people, enthusiastic minds. What was that experience like when you're with surrounding and educating those people?
It was a wonderful experience.
Mm.
Really for very, very long. And what I loved about it, since I studied international, so I was all national department. I always taught in English language, never in my mother tongue in German, or
Right.
hardly.
Yeah.
And marketing and business development, there are so many terms, there is no German expression. I was like, what does that mean in German? And sometimes it's really a complicated word. I had troubles remembering that. So yeah, but what I love most is bringing also this international global flavor into the classroom, of my experiences, because I could tell stories. And on the other hand, having already 14 different nationalities sitting in the classroom.
Yes.
For them, it was new because it's mostly students coming from different parts of the world who have to do 1 or 2 semesters here or wherever that was. And then it's interesting to see the dynamics of different cultures. So we're an American working together with a Japanese person. Oh my God. 2 different approaches, because the teaching philosophies are very, very different.
Yes.
And then if there is another culture coming into that dynamic, because I always taught I gave lectures, but they also had to work in groups, and they had to accomplish a project or giving presentations. So it was really nice of how good the teams were, and how they not only learned content that was topics such as global consumer behavior or global strategic management. It was also learning to work as a team, but coming from different cultures. They learned so much about this teamwork, that experience itself. Yeah. And for me, it was a must that they were a group of people coming from different nationalities.
Yeah.
Not just the Chinese is one group, and then we have as in this is a no-go. You have to be from different countries. Beginning there was some resistance, but they understood the value of it. You just have to explain it why, that's what I loved. And also teaching at different universities around the world. I taught in Hong Kong, in Canada, in the US, in Great Britain, in the Ukraine, and in Russia. And yeah, in
Yeah.
Vietnam. So it was fun.
Yeah, and because that then obviously then you, with your experience of when you were working on the airline as well, and obviously traveling essentially around the world, you know, and then obviously then with the teaching you were doing or the lecturing you're doing with these either different cultures or different places, obviously experiencing different cultures, traveling, that must still be a huge part of
That's my
importance,
life.
something to you. Yeah.
It's my life. It's my life. And, you know, sometimes when I do my visualization, meditation, and when I talk to other people, it's like now I'm in this show, invited in your show. I feel like I love that. And I just sometimes see myself having my own show. It's like travel the world of brands, you know, kind of combining being somewhere in the, you know, in a hotel or diving into a different culture and exploring that culture. That would be something that, yeah, like the icing of the cake in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like I was chatting to another lady yesterday, and she was very much in sense of talking about her being outdoors and travel, and she's got this bucket list of places she wants to travel to. And I was saying the same thing to her as I was saying to you now. It's like I've traveled as well. Where I grew up, I had the opportunity to travel when I was young, all over Europe. When I was very small, we camped all over Europe and went, you know, as far as Italy and France. We've been when the sort of Eastern Europe in the 90s, where it wasn't as a, you know, it wasn't necessarily a tourist destination, you know, and then I've subsequently traveled the world. And it's, to me, it is the single biggest learning thing you can do for yourself is to travel. You know,
Yes.
more than, you know, there's not to say knock formal education or anything like that, but when you find and going to the places like where we've been into, say, places in Southeast Asia, Singapore, Thailand, those places, or Malaysia, it's like I was backpacking, so I couldn't afford the fancy places, but it made you go into the places where you wouldn't have otherwise seen. That's where you really learn about other people, other cultures, and then about yourself as well.
Exactly, because the more you see other ways of doing things, other cultures, the more you reflect on yourself. What do I want? What do I not want? And you learn about who you really are, because you're
100%.
confronted with all this adversity and uncertainties. And also for me, I've lived in India for 3 months. I've worked there. I have studied in Singapore. I have studied in the United States. But getting all these flavors in, you know, and then we had not only stops for like 24 hours. Sometimes we sat in Sydney for a week or in Bangkok for 10 days and just had a Hong Kong flight in between, because then you get to learn the people. Yeah.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
studying somewhere is really living there. I
Yeah.
shared flat in downtown Singapore, and it was just beautiful to live with a German and with someone from, she was from Malaysia, so it was just a perfect experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
Get to
absolutely.
know yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I want to then, so when did you then, with all of the sort of the experiences you had and what you were doing in your profession, what was the point then when you kind of thought, you know what, I need to change it up again? You know, so you were like, I actually want to do something for myself or by myself, when you decided I want to be an entrepreneur, is it the word you used earlier? Was there a point, or was it a slow thought process that got you to where you are?
Okay, so I want to say something else, because I think that's important to your
Yeah.
previous question, how we finished it up. When you get to know yourself and do so much of traveling
Yeah.
and you return, it's hard to fit in again.
Yeah.
And this was, I think, one of my major problems, because I've developed personally so much. I have grown so much. I have evolved so much that
Mm,
everything here was too small.
yeah.
I always needed to reach out to the world. That's why I was like, this place is too small for me, especially in Austria. The culture is very unique. Yeah,
Mm,
it's like that. Yeah, so it's always the past, and the past
yeah.
was better. and the future is, we are not so much open to looking towards the future, right? It's also hard for an entrepreneur, even they trying to do some things, but still it's really hard, I have to say. Most of my clients are in North America. That's how it is. In this space where I am at when it comes to global and personal branding. But I always had this urge, now coming to your question, I need to do something on my own. That's why freedom is something that I value, because I'm having a hard time to always be told by someone, even, and more so by someone who really has no clue about things. Really having a hard time. So I'm a decision maker. I like to make decisions and take responsibility.
Yes.
And usually I know what I'm doing. And so I always dreamt about having my own business. I was not quite sure how it should look like, but kind of, crystallized over the years as a professor in the last, let's say, 13 years. And I knew I had a contract that terminated, and I knew then it is the time. So I was teaching a lot, because as a professor here in Austria, not getting much money as a teaching professor. So I had to teach at different universities to make a living. And there was not much time to do, to kind of start your own business on a side. I did, and it was super successful, but I didn't have much time, Sometimes you also need to breathe in between. Take care of yourself and do some self-care. And the day just has 24 hours, right? And then when there was the time, it was February 2020 when my contract ended. So we know what happened March. So I was ready to go doing my workshops for companies, right? And then I couldn't get out there. Everything was kind of, the world just came to us. So, and then I started thinking, okay, what am I doing now with who I am, what I want to offer? So then I went back to deep work, and I really had to pivot. I mean, I had to reinvent myself, because we didn't know how long this is going to last. And the university said, okay, we still need you. And I continued teaching, because they couldn't find anyone to substitute me for a long time, actually. And so then I started my own podcast, because I thought I need to kind of be visible somehow. And the only way to do that, I was too shy to go with video first. So I started audio, and that gave me some more confidence, because even though I'm so passionate about things, I always had troubles with my self-worth. I was conditioned rather to play small and, be quiet and obey what others have to say. And they know much better than you do. So that's what I was told, and then when you hear things like, okay, you're just second class doing this, it really gets you. And so I started with my podcast, and then I always had guests. For me, doing a solo was never something I really liked, because I was not quite sure what to talk about, even though that's things out there, right? But I like to have these conversations. I want to learn from other people, and create a platform for others, and to listen, and to highlight that person, to make them special, So it was kind of a win-win situation. I'm still doing it now. I have had it for 3 years. And so that helped me. And then, I was asked by the university to create online courses. So I started doing that. And then I figured, listen, why should I create online courses for the university when I can do it myself? But that is not so easy when you have no audience. you need to have an audience, you know, to offer these online courses. So now I'm setting up, you know, creating a community and trying to reach more and more people by running challenges. And now I've found a way to kind of do something in between. It's like my one-on-one coachings, and I just love it. I just love to help others in a one-on-one. And this exclusive coaching to completely tailor a program to their needs and creating this exceptional experience so that they can do the same. So I always had this urge. It was an inner, I can say now it was a calling, because I always conquered and embarked on a new venture. It was not really clear. I just knew the way of how it is. It's not working anymore for me.
Yeah.
I not go back to university and teach. It's done, you know, for me. That I have done it for so long. There can be other people doing it, but now that something different, and I'm really very clear on that.
Yeah, and I can completely resonate with you in that, in sense of that wanting to do something, because it's a strange one, because obviously I had a similar journey, just maybe a couple of years later, in a sense of when I decided to make that change as well. And it was that, for me, it was that again, I suppose I never had thought of it necessarily as the word as freedom, the way you thought it yourself, but I was again getting frustrated with the sort of being, as you say, being told what to do. You said it was, and sometimes by people who you kind of think who really don't know what they're talking about. And I was kind of like, you know what? Because I had a head in my head, I was like, well, I was thinking, well, I could do better. That was my sort of belief. And there was almost this thing, my thought was like, well, I want to give it a go, and then to sort of live and die by the sword, but my own one. If I make a mistake, it's my own, because I made the wrong thing. I'm not, you know, or if I make a success, I'm taking, you know, it's like I'm taking the responsibility or the accountability, but I'm also taking any success. And I was like, that's what I wanted to put myself out and think, well, it's on me then, you know, versus, that's right. Because if it goes wrong and if you're an employee, you can say, it was the company. I was the company's decision. It absolves you of it. And I was sick of that sort of perception, or the lack of control that I felt I had over my own life or whatever. And that's why I was like, you know what, I'm just going to give it a go. That was where, so it's like I resonate with yourself. The one thing else I wanted to pick up on then, for people as well who are either watching or listening, and I think this is a really important point, because we've had, I think this is our third conversation, and obviously whenever, or via Zoom, whenever I'm smiling again now, because the conversations, you're so full of energy, you're so through with, you know, the passion you have for you do. But what I want to highlight is the fact that you still had those same sort of challenges over self-worth. You had those same sort of doubts because of what the people have maybe told you previously. You know, from anyone else looking in, they would kind of go, Jesus, she doesn't worry about self-worth, which, you know, that Brigitte, that wouldn't be something. So I'd really like for you to sort of, because I think it'd be really powerful, because of the way that I see you and experience you, is like, how did you work, or how do you continue to work through that sort of process, or that concept of self-worth?
I was really, I took several months just to concentrate on that. For me, I know this is my topic right now. I have to work with that. Otherwise, I will not be successful. There are things I have to look at and work on and resolve. I went on a deep soul search, discovery, vision. It was the hardest ever. You know, first I did it alone. It got me already far. But then I knew I need someone. I need someone to go at the root cause. And I found via LinkedIn a growth mindset coach. And it was just beautiful. It was the perfect fit. And I strongly believe that when you're open to change, when you're open to let go, when you're open to receive, that the right people will come into your life, the right things will fly into your life. I believe it. Truly, there is no doubt about that, even though I doubt about myself. But now But now I have the tools to deal with it.
Yeah.
I think it's always going to be a topic, always. But I have the awareness. I realize at the moment when it happens, and then I just try to ground myself. And then I know, okay, that's what I need to do next. This is what I need to do next. So I kind of have a strategy.
Yeah.
And it gets me out of that. So my resilience has become so much stronger. I bounce back rather quickly. The downtime is short. In the earlier days, it was like several days all my life and feeling a victim. And why does this always happen to me? And what's wrong with me, you know?
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, so what is actually this situation teaching me? What is the learning out of that? I turn it around like in an instant. This for me is the greatest learning. I did it also in earlier times, especially when it was in emergency situations.
Yeah.
I become very, very clear. You only learn this about you when you are in an emergency, when life is at risk, then you understand what kind of person you are, how you are reacting. I become very calm. It's like nothing is happening at the moment. And then I'm getting very structured and okay, where do I start? I'm totally reptile. There's a reptile brain kicks in, or feelings. No, feelings are not there anymore. It's just and finding a solution and trying to keep everyone being quiet.
Yeah.
So that you can really do your job. And that would help me a lot. And also when I'm in a like stage fright, or when I'm invited to a show like today, you know, what can happen? Are you crashing? Are you dying? No, I'm not dying. Okay. Then I'm just showing a side of me that is not perfect, and that is being vulnerable.
Yes.
Part of authenticity, right? We talked about that yesterday.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that is, it's where you connect with the people. You touch people's hearts, and they say, oh, she's not perfect. So am I. I'm not perfect. And when she can do it, I can do it as well. So
100%.
we have to show that side. And and I just think that if you're struggling with something, take the time and reflect, find out who you really are. And it's not just something like only writing down your values, because there's a lot of people that don't even do that. But it's taking the time with yourself, and that is sometimes really cumbersome. It's hard. It makes you cry. It makes you, oh my God, how it's just something that makes you tired. You get a headache. It's not easy, but it's the most beautiful journey that you can go through. And I think that becoming an entrepreneur makes you becoming so much more aware of yourself. You're going through this personal development, and it's the best school ever.
100%.
I've seen a lot of schools inside and outside. This is the best learning school. I've learned so much in that short period of time than I ever did in my life.
100%.
Something into situations. And I can also say, when you are on board on a plane, you cannot run away from that situation. It is like that. You have to handle it. So you have to handle it also as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much again for sharing that, because of how you work through those situations and continue to work. And I think this is the important thing as well. When I talk to them or I listen to them, we can get caught up in this belief that I'm the only one who thinks and feels this way. I'm the only one that believes this about. So when I look at other people, or I listen to the people, or even they may be listening to them now, they go, oh, maybe she's just saying that for the show or stuff like that. It's nonsense. Like, we all go through this. And that was one of the things as well, when we go back, tangent, like going back to the whole thing of traveling the world, when you spot the differences, the amazing cultural differences from people around the world. But then when you get to know people, how similar we actually are as well, that even everyone around the world, you think of, even from all the different cultures that you'd have, they still experience these same worries or doubts and that, maybe not to the same extent because there's slightly differences, but the human nature of what it is, like we all had that sort of shared experience. But the difference is, you say though, is like one is the building the self-awareness for what it is, taking the time to think through all those thoughts. And the next thing is like, well, now I'm going to change. It's the action piece of, and then is that, because once you then start taking, you say the entrepreneur sort of thing of, it forces you a sense to take action because there's no one else doing it for you.
Yes, and I think a lot of people stop when they start thinking and then have to take action, because you know what? Yeah, it's exhausting. It's hard work.
Yeah.
And you have to be courageous, and you have to be bold, and you have to face failures or roadblocks. And if you're not up for that, to conquer that and to find solutions, then maybe stay in your comfort zone. Maybe that's the better life, you know? But that doesn't mean one or the other is better or worse.
Yes.
If everyone has the way of doing things, and when someone wants to stay in a job and feels like happy doing things for 30 years, 50 years, forever, and just master that, just on the parenthesis, then this is beautiful.
Yeah.
But we need to figure out if we are living more, let's say, fixed mindset, or if you want to grow, if you want to change things. And I'm like, oh yes, let's do it. I'm always the first one in things. I'm always excited about new things. Yeah. There is no comparison, right? I like that. I don't like to be compared. But when you do it first, the way of how you do it can still be the best way, because nobody has done it yet.
Yes.
But I think it's also exciting just to live who you are and taking the next step, how you want to do it. Very often I don't even read manuals when I buy a new because I thought, okay, let's try this out first. Then sometimes I have to go back to the manual. But you know what I mean? It's just this being inspired and fully passionate about what you're doing. And I think then you're living your best possible version.
Yeah. So because you mentioned the podcast, which I was very fortunate to be invited on and to chat to you as well as your guest yesterday. And it's Brand Talk is the name of your podcast, and obviously brands is obviously what you do, and that's you. So tell me, before I go on to the next questions, what about sort of you do as the business, and what brands? Why did you focus on branding?
Okay, so as I told you, I like beautiful things, and I like how much brilliance is in all of that to become beautiful. So this has always been part of my life, to bring things to excellence. And when I traveled, I always like to check out stores and supermarkets and look at what kind of brands do they have there, like marketers brands, store brands. I just love to have things that nobody else has back home. So I was always searching for also retail chains or coffee houses. And I always reflected on, how do I feel purchasing that? I felt like, this empowers me, or that makes me happy, that makes me strong, that makes me healthy, that makes me whatever. So this was always a passion of mine. And then I figured there is actually something that is called branding and brands, and and then I thought, this is it. It brings everything together. And now, since I'm more, I did my studies always about it was about developing strategies. And doing things on a global level is very much about strategy than the daily implementation thing. I was never doing that. So I'm not the person who is now designing the logo. I will tell you, okay, the logo needs to be more, or I get the idea out of the people I'm working with. So I listed all of that. It's actually their idea, but I connect the dots and I help them to make it more efficient and much faster, the whole process in that sense, right?
Yes.
So it's about, okay, it should be more delicate, or the colors, what you think, these colors mean this and these colors mean that. Well, how does that resonate with you? So there's a lot of frameworks that I use, Ivy League frameworks, you know, renowned frameworks that have been scientifically proven over the last decades. And so that is exciting for me, to helping them actually to bring this inner beauty and brilliance that everyone has out to the world, in terms of voice, in terms of, you know, physical evidence, in terms of how should a logo look like, and your tagline and the colors. But it's very much about who that person is or that company is. It's about their mindset, their vision, their mission, their underlying values. It's about the people that work and bring that corporate brand to shine, that experience to shine. And that was, for me as a flight attendant, I kind of transformed that. I helped that to bring it vision, to bring it alive through an experience they have with my doing. So it's really about the people behind all of that. And nowadays, the humanization of brands, because we need to connect on a visceral level. We need to build trust. It's about relationships. It's about community. And I love to design that, to craft that, to help them maybe revamp something that is already there, but needs to be, you know, there needs to be an upgrade. They need to evolve, because brands evolve with us, because we are. So that's it.
No, absolutely. No, it was just fabulous again. And so much of what you're talking about there, in a sense of what you're trying to do, because it is, and I've spoken to a few different people in this sort of, in the field that you're in. And I always love to talk to people like who are in this field, because the passion that comes through to you is just, it just exudes it. But from my sort of more limited knowledge, I've learned as I've been talking to people, but it's like, it's so much more, as you say. The logo is almost the last thing. You know, there's so much story, there's so much layers in relation to it. As you say, though, it's like coming back to when you purchase that particular thing, or you buy that particular service from that company, how is it, you as the consumer, the end user, how is it making you feel? Like, I'm not going to, I won't lie, in a sense of like, I'm surrounded here by my Apple iPhone. I'm not even sponsored by them, but I have my Apple iPhone. I'm on my Mac. I have my AirPods in, like I have an iPad out there, because, do you know what I mean? Because, it's like, because when I buy those things, I'm thinking the reliability, quality, I love the feel of it, I love the texture of it, the way I love it looks, I love the sound, you know, it's just, so it completely works. It completely works.
Yes, and it's also a beautiful, as you say, design, and it works. I was afraid of a normal computer. I don't know how you call that. To say it like that. No, I'm not way, but I always had troubles, because it was crashing, or I couldn't upload this or that. So there was always something. I never ever had a problem with Apple. So for me, this is something that supports me, and I feel good using it. And brands are usually an extension of ourselves. What does it do with me? What does the brand that I'm offering do with my client? What do I want them to feel? So we need to ask ourselves that question. And then it all comes back to you. So how do you want to be perceived? That is your identity. You need to be clear what you are sending out, how you are portraying yourself, your company, your corporations, your services, your products, your experiences. And that goes, it doesn't stop there. A country, a specific place, everything can be branded, a cause, everything.
Absolutely. So is there a almost like an ideal client for you that you particularly work with? Or is it companies, or is it individuals? Who do you ideally work with?
So for me, it is actually companies. It's entrepreneurs that start their company. So helping them. Because my motto is, and that's what I truly believe, that branding starts with mindset. branding is a construct that really transcends this mere aesthetics, such as colors and logos. It really germinates from one's mindset. Yeah, that is basically my, if I quote myself here, because this is it. Yeah, it starts with us. And so it's for entrepreneurs who embark on their entrepreneurial journey, coming from academia, coming from corporate, but also those, I had one in my challenge and I did a workshop then with that company. She had her company for over 30, 40 years. And now she wanted to actually go behind all of that because she did it unconsciously. Then she wanted to go to the root cause. She wanted to find her value set that is true for her right now.
Amazing.
and for her company. Yeah, and companies in a sense offering workshops to create these exceptional experiences, not only for the people within the company to align company and personal values, so to live by a set of values, but how do we also create these exceptional experiences for others? How do we want to be perceived? And that comes back to corporate identity, company identity. It's all about identity.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what I do. I help companies and
yeah.
leaders. I mean, if you are, everyone has a personal brand. We are.
Yeah.
We are aware of it or not, we are. And it's just about making it, being aware of that, and how are we presenting ourselves every day. And so I also work with these personal brands within an organization to make sure they are aware of their executive presence.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's identity.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. We've got a great segue here because you mentioned you almost quoting yourself from your own sort of company or what you want to do, and I love that. It says that branding starts with mindset. It's absolutely, I 100% agree. We mentioned you mentioned the quote. I do love quotes myself. I think they can be really, really powerful. And I always like to ask my guests. So, what quotes are important to you?
Okay, so there are several quotes actually out there. I find two inspiring because it's something to do with self-worth. And unfortunately, the author is unknown. And the first one is abundance follows when self-worth thrives. So it's about, finding yourself with financial issues, with like scarcity in every walks of life. It's really about taking yourself seriously and owning it, that it's allowed to be. It's allowed to be you, and that you are important and unique in this world. And it continues, you have to be rich with good feelings about yourself to bring the riches of life to you. Yeah. So first of all, I think it has something to do with being authentic, loving yourself first, and being okay with who you are. Not being okay, it's just being joyful about who you are. And I think then you are in that energy that attracts everything else that is important in life. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
So that has something to do with self-worth. And then
100%.
There are other quotes as well. I can continue with Coco Chanel, for example, is someone who inspires me because her ability to assert herself in this male-dominated world. And she says, elegance is when the inside is as beautiful as the outside. So, beauty is my first value. Yeah, we talk about outside beauty. So the meaning of it shifted over the time of my life, through all my life stages and what I have gone through or not. Yeah. So first it was like the beauty being, as a flight attendant, but now it shifts more towards the inside, and then also bringing that inside of the beauty out of the people I work with that makes their identity. Yeah. And then she also says something, and I love that as well. Coco Chanel says, hard times arouse an instinctive desire for authenticity. Yeah. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Because when you are in hard times, when you can't do it anymore, you let your guard down. you let everything go, and
Yeah.
then you just do,
Yeah.
because you are in survival mode. You are the pure, true, authentic you, if I can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is
100%.
beautiful, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of
Yeah.
course around with her all her vulnerability quotes, and
Yeah.
then more that I think is also important. Oprah Winfrey says something about, because it embodies the principles of integrity and excellence. She says, let excellence be your brand. When you are excellent, you become unforgettable, doing the right thing even when nobody knows you are doing the right thing will always bring the right thing to you. That is integrity, following and doing always the right thing, because you yourself have to watch yourself in the mirror. You have to see yourself there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another woman which also inspires me is Michelle Obama.
Yeah. Love her.
Because she really shines from the inside out. All her beauty and brilliance comes through that personality, and she's captivating the people, and she's a revolutionary woman, and she dedicates herself to these important causes. It's about, you know, better education for girls. It's about healthy living as well, you know. So there's
Yeah.
some similarities, and she says, always stay true to yourself and never let what somebody else says distract you from your goals. So we can get advice from all the different kinds of people, but you really need to feel into that. Does that also ring true for me? Is that really, because what is true for someone else might not be true for
Yeah.
you. So we need to
100%.
reflect on that, if that
Yeah.
is right.
Yeah.
These are the major quotes.
Yeah, no, I love it, and all of those, the people that you mentioned, I wasn't familiar with Coco Chanel's quotes, but I can totally reflect and resonate, and then powerful, and how they very much would. I can see how they align, those quotes align with yourself, but obviously with Brené Brown, Oprah, and Michelle Obama, and I think with the interesting, I think especially with, say, like, if you took those last, even Coco Chanel, you know, sort of like, these are women who are performing at such high levels, you know, sort of, they've, you know, in a sense of, from a global perspective of what they've done, you know, in their professions and things like that. And each one of those women, whenever I've read their books or watched any of the things they talk about, they do exactly what we spoke about before, which is about the whole thing of vulnerability, you know. And this is the thing again of when we said about people thinking, oh, I'm only one who thinks this way. All of those women that you just spoke about have all gone through those same processes and same thought patterns of low self-worth or low self-esteem, or can I do this? Who am I to do this? You know, it's sort of like, it's, so it just shows you, and it doesn't mean that you have to, and again, the point that you said earlier, it doesn't mean that, oh, well, if I'm not trying to quote unquote achieve or succeed at something, that means that I'm not doing it. It's like, self-worth to me is kind of like that you're content with what you have, that you're grateful for what you have. And you know, if you're, say, as you say, if you're in that moment where you think, no, I love my job, I love what I have, I don't need any more, don't want any more, then, as you say, to use your word, that's beautiful. But it's kind of like, if you're in a place where you kind of like, where you're not happy, you're sad, you're annoyed, frustrated, angry, it's coming back to, like, you have the agency to make the changes. And that's the big difference, and that's where that's building that growth mindset, as you talked about, comes in, because no one's going to hand it to you.
No, exactly.
You have to do it. Yeah.
It's something very intrinsic. Yeah, it really happens within, and then it's the true thing. It's not something that other people tell you. And yeah,
you have to do it. You mentioned all those people. Is there any, would you say there any other sort of people who've been a big influence in your life?
Yeah, and I have to come back here to my former boss, Niki Lauda, because he is really someone who has kind of shaped me, very much influenced me, because when you are working for someone like him as a celebrity, he has like a very strong personality, it makes something with you. And he was a very strict boss as well, right? And I don't know if you know his story, but he has an unbelievable resilience and determination, yeah, because he nearly crashed fatally in 76 in Germany during the Grand Prix in Nuremberg.
Yeah.
Nürburgring. And then also one of our planes crashed in Bangkok in 91. So there is a lot of adversity, you know, out there. It's the way of how he went through that, how he coped with that. And it's just the value of perseverance that he brings to the table. And that was extremely mind-blowing for me. It really left some traces here, and the way of how he did business. And I mean, now it's maybe a little different, but for him 100% was not good enough. It had to be 110%, and we were living up to that. We went the extra mile. We did everything that we could, but you have to have a team that is striving for the same thing. You have to be a leader in order to get that, to make it happen. And it comes all back to, you have to lead yourself first in order to be able to others.
100%.
And he was all totally authentic. And that's what we loved, because even though, you know, he was like very strict, and there were rules and regulations and procedures we had to comply with, and some things that you cannot do nowadays anymore. But it really made me to what I am and how I live my life, and striving for this excellence, striving for high performance, and making things exceptional for people.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, even reminding me, his tagline about excellence through service, was that
service is our success.
Service is our success. And that almost seems that sort of line has resonated throughout yourself. I can feel it from yourself, in sense of what you're trying to provide the people you work with, whether it be the students, the people you taught, whether it be in the brands you work with, or the individuals, or what you do now. That how you serve them is going to determine your success.
Absolutely. Yeah. Then of course we need to define what is success.
100%.
For everyone it's different, but for me, being successful means I made a difference in other people's lives. It's positive reinforcement. It's empowering others and understanding what they can do, how they can make themselves be the best possible version at every moment.
Love it. Brigitte, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I've loved every minute. I do have one more question for you. Before I ask that final question, I want to make sure that people are able to follow and connect with you online. So we'll have everything in the show notes, all the links, but if you want to give a shout out now of where people can follow you.
Yeah, so I have a website, of course. It's BridgetBrands.com, and I am very, very active on LinkedIn. That's my preferred social media platform, and just get in touch with me.
Great stuff. Yeah, brilliant. Well, brilliant stuff. So we'll have all the links in the notes there. So my final question for you is, what's important for your future?
Pretty much the same thing, you know. My future really holds this continuation of what's important to me today, and it's health, it's freedom and personal growth, and make an impact in other people's life. Also sticking to my set of values. The meaning and priorities might change, but the core essence is going to remain unchanged in here. Quality time with my loved ones, with my parents, and the ongoing evolution of myself as a person, and diving deep into the different facets of authenticity, because I think once you start this journey, you're discovering always something new, and there is new meaning that you attach to it. It's just mind-blowing. I just love to dive into this whole world of that and talk about it. And also important for me is meaningful conversation. This chitty-chatting, I'm not up for that. I never was. So it really, I'm hungry for meaningful conversation to have with other people, and understanding their higher purpose and discussing about it, and learning. Never stop learning.
Love it. As I say, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you, Brigitte. Thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Thank you. I thank you so much for having me, and I hope there is something valuable for our audience in this.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode. I really hope you enjoyed the conversation. To support the show, please subscribe on your favorite platform, share your favorite episode, get involved with your comments, and give the show a rating. If you want to learn more about what I do, you can follow me at 𝘽𝙤𝙤𝙠𝙤𝙬 on Facebook and Instagram, connect with me on LinkedIn, or check out my website, 𝘽𝙤𝙤𝙀𝑐𝑜aching.com.